Hello, Mayor of Scum Village here, and welcome to my channel. Most that know me for my edits, however I am a hopeless theorist, especially in the dark deception community as of right now. Upon reviewing this theory, I've decided that I would like to vocalize it to the community and put it forward, seeing as Bierce gets quite a bit of hate. Now, if you've seen my edits in the past, we all know that I am a little... So, I will be the first to say that I am a little biased, too. However, this does not take away from the fact that the little details that Glowstick Entertainment has included in the game paint a particular picture for me. This picture, in particular, is that Bierce has redemption material. I've seen theories, many relying on the artwork of Bierce as the 10th portal, which has been debunked by Glowstick, and her general mannerisms demonizing Bierce. I mean, yeah. She might have murdered 2 people, one being a child, but who doesn't have their faults? In all seriousness, yes, Bierce did terrible things during her life. However, certain moments paint a picture of potential redemption for the actress. Considering Bierce's own perception of herself, she seems to often dissuade Doug from trusting Malik, but does not give redeeming qualities for herself.
If you believe her, you're dumber than you look. Once she gets what she wants, you're done.
Oh, yes. Trust the bloodthirsty demon. No doubt he has your best interests at heart.
In this quote, Bierce does not bring her own standing into the equation. She simply speaks lowly of Malik, but does not attempt to put forward that she is better. When trying to sway Doug, she does not talk highly of herself. She simply states that she knows about Malik's nature as a demon. This interaction gives more weight to the interaction between Bierce and Malik we see after the completion of Stranger's Sewers.
Every piece Bierce gets makes her more powerful. Don't you get that, meat sack? What do you think is going to happen when she doesn't need you anymore?
He's right. I am getting more powerful. Powerful enough to fulfill your every wish. That's why you're here, isn't it?
Bierce. Why not tell him what fate befell the last person that trusted you?
Now, Bierce could be seen as indignantly avoiding the question. However, that does not seem to match with the boisterous character we've seen in the past. To simply avoid the question seems strange for her, and this is the only time she's ever viewed looking away from the camera in a cutscene. Bierce could have easily justified the loss of the last soul to join her in the ballroom. We've already heard her brush off these encounters, such as in this voice line we hear in Monkey Business.
Here, you'll need this. It can detect each shard's location. It was left by the last guest to disappoint me here. A very clever girl, just not a very fast runner.
Bierce demonstrates a potential ability to brush off the previous deaths that have occurred while under her watch, at least when speaking to Doug. She is very capable of letting them roll off of her shoulders. However, when faced with the reality of the past with both Malik and Doug present, Bierce does not quit back, even though we know she is very capable of doing such. Bierce does not do what we would expect of her character from what we've seen in the past. Bierce breaks the character she has potentially created for herself as an actress, and Bierce simply turns away. I want to preface this by saying that my formal education around psychology only consists of about a handful of university-level courses, so I am in no way an expert, and this is not an expert opinion. However, if I could play armchair psychologist for a quick moment from my sparse education, this could potentially be used as a coping mechanism. Bierce's joking about the death of previous guests and the avoidance of the question with Malik both indicate that she is using these methods to cope. Bierce uses comedy to lighten the environment, as you are in a very dark atmosphere for the entirety of the game. Bierce brushes things off as though they do not hurt her. Countless people have come, and ultimately met.
Fate's far worse than death.
I personally believe the experience of watching so many people in similar situations as her go through the labyrinths, experiencing hope and laughing with them at little quips, Bierce would not be able to mentally handle the constant grief she would be experiencing. She must steel herself against this tidal wave of grief using comedy and depreciating humor, otherwise it may overtake her. That's why, when she's called out in front of someone she feels somewhat responsible for, Doug, Bierce avoids it. She simply stops talking. This could also be why we see differences in the voice lines from Bierce after dying in-game. Bierce is one to bring her comedic tone into these voice lines, as seen here.
Now that deserves a facepalm. Duck, duck, die. Girls just want to have fun. Killing you. Oh, is it really
I guess
that
the joke's
bad?
off
You
to
have
These are played when Doug is killed by a monster in a nightmare, what would be considered a lower-level monster. In Elementary Evil, when Doug is killed by Agatha, we hear,
Agatha wants to play doctor. Too bad she's all out of anesthetic.
though, in the exact same level, when Doug is killed by Malik, we instead hear,
Idiot! Do not fail me again!
The line, "Idiot, do not fail me again," sets off certain alarm bells in my head. Bierce, instead of joking and making light of a tragedy as she is known to do, she is showing actual emotion. She uses this expression to get across that the situation is actually threatening to Doug's safety, or at least in her own opinion. This means that she actually has some inkling of emotion when it comes to those that come through the ballroom, that she actually cares about their well-being to an extent, that they are all not just lambs to the slaughter. While most may argue that this is simply because these mortals are tools to procure the riddle of heaven for Bierce to use, other factors challenge that. From what we know, all of the soul shards are remnants of people that have previously failed in these areas. This means that many people have made it as far as Elementary Evil, which is when Bierce shows this emotion.
Shoot, he knows you're here now. You need to escape. Get to the portal. Hurry!
This voice line is during Monkey Business, the most basic level of the game. Bierce has seen so many come through the ballroom, and it should not worry her that someone would die right out of the gate immediately in the first nightmare they experience. Despite this, she still shows genuine panic in her voice, even though Doug is yet to prove himself beyond finding a ring piece, a feat that many have already completed, evidently. Bierce has no reason to care about Doug in a pragmatic sense. Doug is not a complete investment yet. Doug is simply a passerby, nothing of interest, and yet, Bierce still expresses this emotion. She still allows the panic to leak into her voice when the situation is dire enough. Returning to the comedic tone Bierce takes, people often find themselves joking about their situation in order to brush it off. To make a topic a big joke and make the situation light means that you never have to get serious about your issues. Another theory of mine that is linked to this, one that I may hopefully cover in the future, is that Edgar may have been an abusive husband toward Bierce.
You'll just have to scare it off. Stare into its eyes and convince it that you're the bigger monster. Trust me, it works. Just ask my late husband.
This adds fuel to the theory that Bierce uses comedy as a coping mechanism, as she is joking about a potentially traumatic, abusive situation. One in which she had to convince her husband that she was the bigger monster, suggesting he is a monster, and suggesting that she had to scare him off or face the consequences. In this case, the consequences are being compared to the monsters in the nightmares, which threaten Doug with death. This means it would make sense for her to joke about those previously in the ballroom, as their deaths may have been traumatic for her. Joking about Doug's potential fate and the fate of previous visitors means she can make it light and protect herself from the overwhelming grief and trauma from the losses. One last factor seems to solidify that Bierce is experiencing trauma from the position she has been put in, and it is a quote from her directly.
Don't look so confused. I know everything you've got hidden in that brain of yours. I know all the terrible things you've done. So many good intentions laid to waste. I can see the regret eating away at your soul.
Bierce suggests that she knows everything about Doug. She now has a lifetime worth of information in her own mind, or at least, she just boasts about it. We do not know whether or not this is really true. Doug is not a special case, however, as Bierce has done this many times in the past. So, for Bierce to have taken on lifetimes worth of information from hundreds, if not thousands of lost souls in the past, she would have had to live through hundreds of lifetimes worth of grief and trauma. That makes it much more plausible that she would develop a coping mechanism that would make her seem like a villain. All of this information accumulates into one woman's mind. One woman who has experienced many traumas and is surrounded by death. To become cold and numb seems to be her only choice, and to supplement that with comedy seems natural for her. That does not mean that she does not care about those who have been in the ballroom before. We see this in how she turns away from both Malik and Doug when faced with the previous fate of the last individual that entered the nightmares. Bierce is capable of emotion, and it shows throughout the game. I believe Bierce has the ability to do good, and potentially even make things right that she did during her living years. She is a very interesting character, and I am beyond excited to see what Vincent Livings and Glowstick are going to do with her in both Chapter 4 and 5 and Mortals and Monsters. Let me know if you'd like any more in-depth theories in the future. I truly enjoy spending time mulling over potential meanings behind characters' actions, and I hope to continue looking at Bierce in the future. Check out the Twitter and the blog in the description for more Dark Deception content, and thank you for watching.